We need to implement it so that we're in compliance with the bond covenants. And then the FY18, FY19, and FY20 plans, which are 3.2, 4.9, and 5.0 respectively. And you'll see these again this evening in our utility update if we get the machine working, or you'll see them tomorrow at the high school at 6 o'clock. The requirement for us now is that we're in breach of our bond covenant. And there is the potential for VRA to call it, which would cost us about $7 million payment that we would have to make immediately. And as you all know, we don't have that. So this is actually just the implementation of the FY17 component of a bond, of a water rate plan that was approved in April of 2015 as a component of a bond issuance for $5 million. Now, there has been a letter sent to us by VRA that the council has seen. It was sent to the mayor and distributed. We have responded. The letter put us on notice that we had to do what we said we were going to do with respect to the implementation of the rate plan. We sent a letter back and said we're going to put this before council, seek their approval for a public hearing, and eventually a vote to implement the plan at the next council meeting. Now, the other relevant issue is we also, as you will recall, did a self-report of a sanitary sewer overflow, as we're required to do by law, a few weeks ago to the DEQ. We have got to deploy a mitigation strategy to the DEQ. To mitigate the SSO that we reported, we need access to that $5 million bond. So it's very important from every aspect that we do what we said we would do in the agreement when we initially received the bond float. And now it becomes somewhat more important in terms of the criticality of access to that bond. We didn't think we would need to access it when we first got here in October, November. As things have evolved, it now becomes critical because that's really the only money that we have available at the moment beyond a clean water loan to deal with a very fragile water and wastewater system as we described last week and we'll do again tomorrow. So just wanted to provide some context on why we were asking for the public hearing and where that number came from. It's the implementation of an earlier plan approved by council and necessary to comply with the bond covenants for the utility bond that we have that we will need to access to mitigate some of the more urgent problems in our water and wastewater utility. This has nothing to do with selling, not selling, how we go forward. It's a completely separate issue. Any questions?
Any questions from members of council? No, thank you.
Well, I'm sorry, just in case Mr. Bob brings up a point. If I wasn't clear, if we don't go forward, then we're in default of the covenant and we have to pay the $7 million that I alluded to straight away, essentially. So I just want to make, that's the option. No decision tonight. It's just serious business, obviously, for a city that's struggling financially. That's something we want to avoid. And we're going to talk to you some more tonight about rates. This isn't as scary as it might seem as a function of the percentage, but it's also not new business. It's just implementing a plan that has been previously approved. Anything else?
Councilwoman Wilson-Smith.
Yes, didn't council already vote to do this?
Yes, as a plan. We have to implement it as an ordinance, and that was not done.
Okay, so the next vote, okay, thank you.
All right, any more questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Tyrell. All right, is there a motion on the floor to approve the consent agenda? Councilman Cuthbert?
I would like to amend the minutes that have been proposed because I would like to embed in the minutes the definition. I'd like to amend the minutes that have been proposed because I would like to embed in them for future reference the definition of principal residence that I proposed. And we talked about it at both the work session and at the regular meeting, I believe, on February 21. Ms. Jackson, is there a place in the minutes of the February 16th work session where this definition could be inserted? I have a copy here that I will give to all members of council. And I don't mean to make a big deal out of it, but I think it was something that I thought about a good deal, and I think it's important that if this issue is ever revisited, and I hope that it will be, that the people revisiting it will remember that back in February and March, I suggested a definition of residency that I thought meant something, as opposed to the definition of residency that was ultimately adopted. Fred, I have only 2 other copies besides the one, 3 copies here for other members of council. And this is like the fish and the loaves. Here's another one here. All right, so the definition that I proposed, I'd like to read aloud, and I would like that to be put into the minutes of the work session as follows. For purposes of this section, quote, principal residence, close quote, means the residence where a person lives at least 80% of the time, such person owning such principal residence through a deed or other conveyance granting the person an ownership interest in such residence, close quote. I don't mean to debate the issue. I just want to report the issue and ask that the minutes reflect that definition. Thank you.
Councilwoman Wilson Smith.
I have a question, please, in regards to the request from Councilperson Cuthbert. The document that we used on that night, the residency requirement document, did it not state the meaning of residency within the document, within that document? And if it did, then does it then, since we had the document, which is legal and binding, do we actually need to add that same definition into the minutes?
Well, where is the document?
We had it at our last council meeting. The HR person had developed a document for residency requirements. And I didn't bring mine back with me, but we had one.
Right, but that was the document prepared by the administration, and my definition was an alternate definition of residency.
Okay.
And I'm afraid that it'll all be lost in the mists of time if we don't put it into the minutes. And it was something that I talked about. Specifically on the February 16 minutes, page 2, the minutes simply say, Councilmember Cuthbert made a motion to substitute the Bob Group definition of residency with the definition that he has in his information on page 2. But that doesn't tell anyone who reads the minutes what that definition was that I was offering. So I don't mean to make a big deal of it, but I think at the same time I would like the minutes to reflect the definition that I proposed. And so I move that the minutes be, the minutes of the February 16 meeting work session be amended to add to the paragraph that I just read the definition, the proposed definition of principal residence that I had proposed.
Ms. Jackson, did you want to comment? Okay. Councilwoman Wilson Smith? You said you liked it. Oh.
Well, okay, since my light is on, I understand what Councilperson Cuthbert is saying, and I concur, so I'll second the motion.
Okay. All right. All right, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Cuthbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith-Lee.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson Smith.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hart.
Aye.
Mayor Pern.
Aye.
Motion's passed. I still need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Vice Mayor Hart.
Yes, I move that we accept the consent agenda as stated.
Councilwoman Smith-Lee.
I second.
Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Cuthbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith-Lee.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson Smith.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hart.
Aye.
Mayor Pern.
Aye.
Motion's passed. The next item on the agenda is 7 official public hearings. We have no items. The next item is the public information period. A public information period is limited in time to 30 minutes and shall be part of order of business at each regular council meeting. Each speaker shall speak will be a resident or business owner of the city and shall be limited to 3 minutes. No speaker will be permitted to speak on any item scheduled for consideration on the regular docket of the meeting at which the speaker is to speak. The order of speakers limited by the 30-minute time period shall be determined as follows. First, in order of notice,